I just graduated, if you couldn't tell. And I just wanted to share some things while I have a full face of makeup on and before I have to ruin my gorgeously clean room with more glitter than I did when I was putting on this dress. This year has been terrible. This year has been terrible, to say the least. For the most part, I knew I was done for the moment I started crying in my living room when I realized that I wouldn't be able to handle this whole situation as easily as I thought I was going to. All my life, studying, working, managing my time had been so easy until I had been forced to do it from home, where at all times I was stressed about work that I had to be doing and subsequently too stressed to be working or relaxing. There was no middle ground, there were no sides, it was just nothing. It was a void of stress that I couldn't get out of. And yet, despite knowing that I had fallen from grace, I had the audacity today to be disappointed that I had received a silver tassel instead of a gold one, and a second honors certificate instead of a principal honors certificate. Let me give you some background information. Going into high school, I had no intention of being anywhere near valedictorian, okay? I just wanted to be a normal student who had above average grades and who participated in a lot of extracurriculars. I wanted it to be that way until the end of graduation, and I had no intention of making any friends or socializing like the protagonist of every teen fiction novel ever. And as it goes in a teen fiction novel, life did not go the way I planned. A group of friends, whether I liked it or not, adopted me, and I was the baby freshman in a group of sophomores. And in my first semester, I ended up being number 1 in my class. This was when my initially healthy mindset started. Now that I knew it was possible, it was what I wanted. If I could become number 1 now, as a freshman, what was stopping me from becoming valedictorian in 4 years? Nothing. I wasn't even trying before, and now that I actually had motivation to try, it was my main goal throughout high school that I tirelessly worked for. Then, in 10th grade, a competitor was on the horizon. She and I went back and forth between the number 1 spot for the next 2 years. It was an unspoken rivalry. Literally unspoken, because we had never said a word to each other until she had said hi to me in the hallway in 11th grade, and I was incredibly intimidated. Not because she was scary, but because she was so nice. She had not even said more than hi in the hallway to me, and I said hi back, but her aura was just so overwhelmingly friendly, even through that teeny tiny interaction. I hated her. Just kidding, it was impossible to hate this girl. But regardless, before quarantine and before we knew how long 2 weeks was going to end up being, my counselor told me that I had solidified my number 1 spot, and I thought that was the end of it. I thought I had it in the bag. I thought nothing could stop me now. I thought today I would be giving a speech. Considering that I did not give a speech today, I think we know how that turned out. During the 2 weeks, they had mailed us packets of work that I was confident in finishing. I won't say whether or not I actually did finish them, but I was confident that I could. And we're gonna pretend that I did. But then 2 weeks turned into a year and a half, and I ended up crying more in that time than I have in the past 3 years, maybe even 7 years. Now, before quarantine, I definitely had a problem with associating my worth to my numbers. If I saw a 94, I would bargain with my teachers for a 96 at least. My Asian bargaining genes, which are completely useless in a store, coming out when I needed them, that more or less worked on my teachers whenever I got a low grade once in a while. I had been working so hard towards this goal that I ended up almost losing myself at that time. This was even before quarantine. I think this guy who actually was a valedictorian explains pretty well his experience that was very similar to mine.
I felt nothing. I was shocked. This was a huge problem for me, and I needed to figure out why. So here was my thought process. Working hard is good. It is in fact biblical, but it should not be done for the sole purpose of a goal's sake at the expense of relationship with others. And looking back on this year, I realized that the stress of this year for this goal in a 5-minute speech was paid for with the lack of attending to relationships in my life. A lesson learned and self-reflection accomplished.
Except he became valedictorian and I didn't. And then, because I knew I had a problem, I ended up going to my school social worker. My my blessed school social worker, who taught me a breathing exercise that I still use to this day every time I get overwhelmed. Though I do have to admit that I forgot to use it a lot during this quarantine experience. Maybe my life would have been better if I had. But due to this release of stress in my brain, even when I found out that my rival passed me and I was second again during quarantine, I learned that it wasn't what I wanted. No. Let me rephrase that. It wasn't what I needed. That's literally the fact of the matter. I did not need to be valedictorian to prove my worth. And I did not need to be valedictorian to be respected by my teachers, which was so important to me at the time. I'll make another video on that later, so stay tuned for that, I guess. And so, with that in mind, I was able to have one last thing to stress over during quarantine. And so, as I let go of that stress that came with needing or wanting to be the best, I ended up rooting for the girl that became salutatorian today as well. Both of these girls that ended up being valedictorian and salutatorian worked so hard to be where they are. And despite being a little disappointed in myself, I was not bitter. Because I could find nothing but happiness when I heard them being called onto the stage to receive the awards that they deserved more than I ever could. They had the drive that I didn't have, and how could I be unfairly bitter over that? Back to me though, I was still in this void of stress. And my GPA dropped so low that I was no longer considered high honors, which I would have done some rash things over had I been like this in my 11th grade year. And though I never did get back on track, I can confidently say that I have grown exponentially since then. I say that as I listened to the valedictorian speech that I thought I would be saying with dry eyes. Sure, I had the audacity to be disappointed at how far I'd fallen from grace. But I got what I deserved. And with that, I got more mental and emotional growth than I ever would have otherwise. I no longer associate my worth with my numbers, and I love myself despite my failures. Which is more than I can say for that girl in 11th grade who cried over 94s. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this stupid silver tassel, and I'm gonna hide that second honor certificate so that I never have to see it again. Despite me having come to terms with the fact that I am not the best, it still makes me angry to look at it. Angry and bitter and upset. Like an ex-boyfriend. Not that I would know, but I can only assume that is how one would feel. But anyway, I wrote all of this entire speech during my graduation ceremony, and maybe it has a coherent message, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is a valedictorian speech that I never got to say. I've always liked to write and recite speeches, so maybe I'm just compensating for that. Finally, though, regardless of all of my complaints, whether it be about myself, about school, about the world, it is what it is, and I am where I am. There's nothing I can do to change it. But I am grateful. And you better believe that I will become summa cum laude in college. Congratulations to all the graduates of 2021, including myself. We did good. And thank you for watching. Now I get to eat Pizza Hut because I forgot to eat over there. I'm gonna get buffalo wings. The stupid hat keeps falling off. I wrote that entire speech during my graduation ceremony, and there are probably a lot of things that I've missed that I haven't said that I should have said. Maybe I'll make another video far in the future explaining what I meant, or maybe I'll just completely forget about it, and maybe you can make inferences like an English teacher would say. Make some inferences. Read in between the lines, or in this case listen in between the words. But dude, I was wearing heels earlier today and now I'm wearing slides. And to my teachers, if you're watching this, I'm making a video about all of you, so now you have to subscribe and turn that notification bell on so that you can know what I think about you. No, I'm not talking to you by name, just generally, but still! I think I'm gonna leave this makeup on. I don't know how long. Not until tomorrow, obviously. I don't want to die. Because that's what happens when you leave makeup on overnight, right? You die. Aside from that dramatic spiel, what else happened today? Oh, I got my hair stuck in a mini fan and my mom had to cut it out during the ceremony.
Resolve to have hope. Resolve not to allow life or other place.
That's so great.